You already know what time it is, man. The young goat in the building. Make sure you tune in to True Hill Heat Podcast.
Hey guys, it's Thunder Rosa and welcome to True Heel Heat.
All right, hello, True Heel Heat. I'm the AEW World Champion MJF. Just in case you're deaf, dumb, blind, stupid, or since you listen to this podcast poor, you're listening to True Heel Heat, and I apologize for that.
Hello, hello, hello. It is me, your True Hill Phenom, SP3. We are live on the True Hill Heat YouTube, Facebook, and my Twitter page for Collision Discourse number 15, reviewing AEW Collision from October 28th, 2023, featuring the World Title Classic between MJF and Kenny Omega. And no, I am not joined by Drunk Guy JJ, Sober Guy JJ, Organic Guy JJ, Just Guy JJ. No, I am not joined by him. I am joined by a person who has filled in for him in the past, who is one of my favorite people to call on to be on any show. He is Scott E. Wrestling. Scott Edwards, how the hell are you?
You have an incredible knack of calling me to action when I think of something that I wanted to ask you. And that happened again today. I was thinking like, oh, I need to ask SP3 something. And then somehow, some way I liked one tweet and here I am. Look at that. But I'm happy to be here as always. This is a different one for me. I don't know if I've done the Collision Discourse yet. I'm usually on the flagship show.
Yeah, you did. When it was Collision Course during our early days. We've already made the transition to Collision Discourse because we realized a lot of people.
Oh, so I was there for CM Punk. Gotcha.
Yeah, you were there. See, yes.
I was there for CM Punk. Now I'm there. Now I'm here for post CM Punk. It's like a different world.
Absolutely. That's what we're gonna call it. We're gonna say Collision Course was when CM Punk was here, and then we changed it to Collision Discourse after CM.
Which is funny because many would argue there was a lot of discourse when CM Punk was here, but you know.
I mean, I would be one of those people. But yes, we are live back on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel. My first time live on this channel since Thursday, Scott. I think this is like the longest stretch I've gone.
I was going to ask
on
you.
This channel.
I was like, is that the longest you've had to go without going live?
I think so. I went to a wedding. I was called on by the good brother Stat King to be a best man impromptu is because of the photographer was like, man, he's the nearest to you. You made him carry the rings. Yeah, I'm calling you out, Stat King. That was part of my speech. But yes. But yes, had a whirlwind week in Chicago, but back live with everyone and glad to be here and glad to talk about AEW Collision and glad to be here with Scott. Hi. So Scott, when was the last time you were on here? What's been going on?
I don't know. There's so much that happens in wrestling these days that like it's hard for me to pinpoint. I think I was on for a pretty normal week. I was on for the end of the 5-star Grand Prix. That's when I was on True Hill Heat. Yeah. Couldn't tell you what was going on in Collision the last time I was on this show.
I think that was right before Wrestle Dream. You came on right before Wrestle Dream on True.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, but since then, Much of the same. Much of the same. Wrestling's calmed down for me in terms of my coverage because the entire Stardom roster's hurt, for example. So it's like, all right, let's just take a little vacation here, almost. But
Sounded like the AEW roster. I mean,
yeah, I know. Injuries just add up, but we're headed to that year end / beginning of the year time, which is the best time in wrestling in my eyes. Because now we have Worlds Collide. Is that the name of the show?
oh, World's End.
World's End. Sorry.
End. He's not stealing from everybody,
Sorry, Worlds Collide. My bad. So World's End, which I'm very much looking forward to. That sounds fun. That's just like the added addition to what is already so many shows that are happening in Japan during that time. I was like, oh, thank you, Tony Khan. I needed more coverage. But I'm doing great. So I'm happy here. You had a great weekend, and I'm happy to be back for your return after your long drought on this channel.
my drought, my hiatus. We didn't even do the True Hill Heat Flash It podcast. I think that's the first time in like 2 years we didn't.
Yeah, when I saw you weren't doing that, I was like, nope, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I was like, I do not believe it. And you got me for a great collision too, so thank you for that.
Legitimately, I literally had the groom say that to me. He was like, so like Romeo or like JJ wasn't free to like fill in for you. I was like, if I'm not here to drive, it's not happening.
And they would swerve when they drive, and you don't. Is that it? Well, it's gone. You need to swerve on Collision.
Absolutely. Well, we had him on pre-Forbidden Door, the Tanahashi match.
Yes, that's true.
When we all realized Tanahashi was old.
That match was that match was better than, well, maybe not, but Swerve's performance in that match was very much appreciated. He made Tanahashi look like $1 million.
Exactly. As long as Tanahashi would have known how to like stand on the top rope for the high fly.
Hey, man.
I'm just saying. That's
I'm not saying wrong, but hey, man, that low blow.
Yeah, a little harsh. I'm feeling a certain way. I haven't been on air in a long time.
That's true. You get some hot takes to just toss at the world. You started with Hiroshi Tanahashi.
It's because I've been watching Satoshi Kojima out here looking like, $1 million at his age, and it's like he's a few years older than Tanahashi.
Well, to be fair, they kind of shut down Satoshi Kojima for a few years.
Points were made. Tanahashi needs to be shut down for a little. Well, he this year he's had it light. This year
he's good in tag matches and trios matches, and that's what
There you go.
It's okay. Do his little spots. Get out of the ring.
Move out. But we got a bunch of people in the chat. Thank you guys for joining us live. We appreciate y'all if you're joining us live, watching us on demand. If you're watching us on YouTube, remember to drop the thumbs up on this video. It helps out so much, helps out the YouTube algorithms and other folks like yourself to see our video here. And remember to also share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family on all your favorite social media platforms. If you're new to the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content here. And of course, if you're watching us on demand, sound off in the comments down below. Let us know your thoughts on this incredible episode of AEW Collision, like Scott said. And also do that if you're with us live in the live chat, like the good brother G Loke, who is with us. He says, what it do at True Hill Heat? I'm ready for another great one. All caps, as always, from G Loke here. Thank you for joining us, G. Thank you for joining us, Frantic World. Anyone else joining us, sound off in the live chat. We love to interact with all of you. We'll try to highlight as many of your comments as possible. But of course, if you're feeling generous and you want to give back to what we do here, we are a self-funded channel. So your super chat donations are so important. So you want to give back to what we do here, send a super chat donation. We will definitely highlight your comment on screen. And if you got a question, you got a hot take, you got a thought on this episode of AEW Collision, and especially that MJF versus Kenny Omega main event, let us know with a super chat donations because we always love those. But let's get into this episode of AEW Collision, Scott, which was from what is it called? Uncastle, Connecticut at the Mohegan Sun Arena. So I guess
It's about 2.5 hours away from me. I thought
Really?
about it. I'll tell you that. I thought about it.
You should have went.
I couldn't go. That's why I thought about it, because I was like, I was trying to make it happen, because originally when they announced it was going to be there, not the Omega MJF match, I was like, oh, I could make that happen, but I was like, Collision's like hit or miss. I was like, maybe the best thing I'll get was like a Danielson versus random guy match, and then they added this, and I was like, I bamboozled myself.
You should have known. They were giving you signs.
I should have looked towards the MJF time frame, been like, oh, you know what? They're just gonna toss Kenny and him on the show.
No, I don't think anyone was expecting it to come out of nowhere. It was announced on Dynamite this past week, which shocked pretty much everyone for this show on 3 days notice, even though people are confusing 3 days notice on 3 days build. No, they at least gave you 2 weeks build for this. So let's be real. It's not 3 day build. It's about 2 weeks build. And the video package for it that they showed on this show as well as on Rampage, excellent stuff, as well as on Rampage, Jay White and Don Callis approaching MJF and Kenny Omega, with Don Callis inviting MJF into the family and Jay White warning Kenny Omega that a very, very elite champion will be waiting for him at Full Gear.
My main complaint about like the build thing, right, is that I think if we had gotten this video, the great package for this match, up a week before, on the week before's Rampage, and then played it on that Dynamite, it just would have benefited everything a little bit more. And that means I would have just had the feud or the story start a week earlier. No matter what, I wasn't complaining that I was getting Kenny Omega versus MJF. They did a great job as well as limiting commercials. So shout out to Tony Khan and company on that one. They knew that everyone was going to want to see the match in full. They timed them perfectly. I can't wait to talk about the actual match and give my thoughts, but I didn't mind the story. I'm never going to mind getting a big world title match. The only thing I did mind was there was no world title out there. But
that is true. It's because of the story that's going on around MJF. It prevented that from happening. But we do have a question for you before we get into the actual show. Frantic World asking, does it feel better without Punk, Scott?
That's an interesting question, because like some weeks, yes, and then some weeks I'm missing like that main story. Because for me, like Collision, once or twice since he's left, has felt like we need to put a show together here. So like, here you go. Right. It's like, here's just a bunch of matches. Take it for what you will. But I will never complain about the CM Punk show becoming the Bryan Danielson show. That is never going to have a complaint for me. Do I like CM Punk, the worker, like the wrestler? Absolutely. I am a huge fan of his. He's one of my all-time favorites. But I think they've done a great job of kind of making it its own show. And I do like that, certain roster members are able to now appear on the show. I think that's a genuinely great addition to the overall product. But now they have to figure out what they're going to do with no Danielson. Not to spoil that.
Yeah. We're going to get into all of that on this show. That was a part of Dynamite, and that explained what we said on AE Ramble this week was a weird ending to Dynamite. Apparently, it wasn't weird. It was all legit. We were like, oh, credit for it coming off believable. Oh yeah, it was believable because it was real. But let's get into AEW Collision from October 28th, 2023. The show kicked off with the number one contender for the AEW World Championship, the leader of the Bang Bang Gang, the leader of Bullet Club Gold, Switchblades, Jay White, going one-on-one with the man that has found his visa, AR Fox, and he's back on AEW television. We get a feeling out process between the two guys. We get Jay White getting caught up in the corner, frustrated at Fox frustrating him with some chops. Bottom rope cutter gets Fox out of trouble. Fox hits some drop kicks, but then Jay White corners him, drops him down. He kind of slows things down, plants him, hits a big Uranagi. We get all the Bullet Club Gold just going crazy on the outside. They also had the Triple B hanging from the announce table, which would become a factor in the post-match here. Fox was just electric in this matchup, especially when he was on his comeback, doing a series of dives onto Bullet Club Gold, as well as Switchblade Jay White, really getting the crowd on their feet. He had a big swanton for a 2 count. He goes for a 450 splash, but he misses it. Switchblade Jay White is able to recover. He eventually hits the Blade Runner for the 1-2-3 to pick up the victory in this one. Really good matchup to kick off the show between these two men. They got 10 minutes, 49 seconds, and I thought these two worked really well together. What did you think about the open to the show? We should also mention in the post-match, as Bullet Club Gold was celebrating and being outrageous as they always are, MJF runs out and tries to get the Triple B back, but the numbers cut him off, and Switchblade takes the title from MJF before he bails. What did you think about the open here?
I don't think there is a better heel worker that is able to kind of bring up the lower card guys. I'm not saying low card, but the lower card guys, and get some really great matches out of them. That's like the one thing that has been consistent with Jay White since he's come in, is that he's facing all these lower guys because, we're building up wins for him. Yeah. And he's making the most of the matches. He's making the most of them, right? He's really good at giving the baby faces a chance to shine, like AR Fox did here, before ultimately, putting an end to them and getting the win. That was a really good opener. It's exactly what you want. AR Fox should not be taken away from TV again, please. I think he is just so good. I'm still really sad that we never got to actually experience what he was going to be in Mogul Embassy, because I really thought it was going to be a perfect fit. But hopefully he can refine himself now, maybe find someone else to partner up or pair up with, because I do think that maybe his best chance right now is in a duo of some sort, and there's just a lot of guys on this roster that are underutilized. That I think you put them and AR Fox together, it could be some type of magic type thing.
I think that they have an opportunity to find that place for him and really pop AR Fox up is by him filling in for Sting when Sting retires with Darby Allin. Because the story's already there. It's already there for them to kind of go off of. And it's all of the story about kind of AR Fox regaining the trust of Darby Allin.
In a perfect world where Edge wasn't in the story, I guess, AR Fox could have been that really cool third partner for Sting and Darby in that story. Now, I'm not saying I don't like Edge being here. I think Edge is, great way for him to close his career. I just think that AR Fox would have been an intriguing part of that had it not gone the way it did.
I agree. There was a lot more story to tell as far as the Nick Wayne AR Fox part of that whole thing with Darby kind of forgiving him, and eventually, hopefully, that kind of gets brought up, because I think that even after this 6-man coming up at AEW Full Gear, that there's legs to the Adam and Christian part of it, as well as the Darby and Nick Wayne part of the story.
I just read that comment, Adam, and I was like, Adam Cole's hurt. I have yet to register.
You're not registering
that
Adam Copeland.
He is Adam Copeland. I have yet to register that in my head, and I don't think it's ever going to happen.
Okay. It happens to the best of us.
Also, I do not want him to be the star of Collision, but that's besides the point.
It should be Christian Cage, of course.
Well, it is Christian Cage. Some may argue it's been Christian Cage.
Yes, exactly.
Truthfully, which he's the man. So that great match with him and Danielson,
Yes,
Sorry.
yes. That was one of the times I was thinking in my head of you talking about how Collision felt like it had a heartbeat and felt like an important show was the Danielson Christian Cage stuff. Anytime Christian Cage is in the main event or it has a segment with Copeland or involving that story, it feels like Collision has one of the main stories on it as well.
Yep, 100%.
We got Chris saying happy birthday to Adam Copeland. Yes, happy birthday, Adam. Happy birthday.
How old is he?
Let's have Scott say Adam like 5 times straight. Go ahead. Adam Copeland,
Adam
Adam Copeland.
Cole. That's what I keep wanting to say.
Exactly. That's what your head wants you to say.
I'm going to call him Edge for the foreseeable future because I know that's his real name, but he's Edge forever for me.
On this day, he is Edge on this day. But yes, we are gonna talk more about everything with Adam Copeland and Christian Cage, probably on Dynamite this coming week. But next up on Collision, we went backstage and we had the Acclaimed with Max Caster getting a text message or a message on social media that he got from MJF to agree that he will be at next week's National 69 Day, celebrating 69 days as the Acclaim being AEW World Trios champions. But apparently he's been catfished, according to Anthony Bowens, and they tell Caster to go stand in the corner. They said they will celebrate the big night next week, and they'll be there, and they want everyone to join them. So what did you think about what have you thought about the whole Acclaim being involved in this MJF Bullet Club Gold storyline? And do you think the Acclaim will be chosen this coming Wednesday on Dynamite?
I really hope not. I just think it would be so boring for that to be like, why tease it as a mystery if it's going to be those three? I mean, it's probably going to be those three because I don't unless like we play the Samoa Joe thing that I'm really intrigued by. The Acclaimed, like, I know they get over with everyone, so I'm not gonna ever tell them to change, but it's like I want something new. Like I want a next step. I was actually looking forward to Billy Gunn not being with them anymore because that was the next step. And then he came back. And now they're champions and doing the same thing. National 69 Day. Great.
You don't like fun. You don't like fun, Scott. That's fun.
I am notoriously known to not like comedy a lot of the times in wrestling. So that's probably part of my pain here.
Understandable, especially when it comes to the Acclaimed stuff. I always realize is not for everyone.
The thing is, I like the Acclaimed. Like I like Caster, I like Bowens a lot. I think they're a really good tag team. I just wanted a slight change up. But they're over, so don't listen to me.
Yeah, exactly. They're not going to listen to you.
It's like when MJF, like, half the audience hates it, half the audience loves it, like whatever. Yeah. It's like he's finding the perfect middle ground now, but it's like, don't listen to me. I'm just someone that on a microphone. I don't. You guys, they know better than I do.
I'm not the judge here. But next up, the Bullet Club Gold was already at ringside because they were ready for some tag team action as it was Colton and Austin Gunn going against Dalton Castle's boys. So yes, this does not last very long. 1 minute, 42 seconds. The Guns hit 310 to Yuma. Total squash here. The Guns picking up a victory ahead of challenging MJF for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships. And I like the fact that they spent the first 30 minutes just basically building up Bullet Club Gold, putting them on the platform, making Collision their show again, despite their regular appearances on Dynamite over the last month, heading into AEW Full Gear. It feels like Bullet Club Gold is the top heel faction right now in AEW.
Well, damn right, they're the best Bullet Club faction in the world today.
This is true.
That ain't even a question anymore. I don't think it's been a question since they formed, let alone now. obviously I ride with the Bang Bang Gang. Who doesn't ride with Bang Bang Gang these days? Great heel faction. I'm still saying Jay should win the belt. I just think it'd be more interesting. MJF's current character would benefit so much more from a chase than it would being the dominant world champion.
I know, but I just don't see it being Jay White. I feel like because of the story they have told, the right
It
ending
won't be
is
Jay White. I firmly believe it won't be him.
It's MJF, triumphing and beating him. So then I feel like the right person to beat MJF is either Adam Cole healthy and turning heel on MJF because the only friend that he's ever trusted to betray him is the ultimate sympathy to take his babyface character over the top. That fits for the story. But as far as this long title reign and you want to build the next person, make the next guy, Swerve Strickland is the obvious choice.
Swerve Strickland might be my favorite men's wrestler and has been for like 2 years now, at least. Like, I loved him back when he was in NXT, and like I think a lot of people like kind of just overlooked him in NXT. I know WWE did.
That's for sure.
And I'm all in on him winning the world title. Here's what I will stress to me: the Adam Cole story to complete that doesn't need the world title, in my opinion. I think because Cole's injured, we could just move away from the world title needing to be in that. And whether it's Jay White, whether it's Swerve Strickland, whether it's William Ospreay, don't matter. Like, one of those three, I'm guessing is probably your next world champion. Truthfully, Ospreay is obviously a bit more of a stretch, but
that's a bit, just a bit more. If MJF is holding the title for like the next 6 months, I feel like if you want to get to Ospreay. I feel like if you want to get to Ospreay, you do MJF right now, okay? Then you do Swerve Strickland, then Hangman Page, two-time champion, and then Will Ospreay.
Okay. I just know, like, he hasn't, because he's interesting to me. The reason he is, I agree. Frantic world. The reason I bring up Ospreay is he's very different from every other potential signing for AEW because he has a story built in.
Yes.
Right? When you bring in Jay White, when you bring in Adam Copeland, when you bring in all these other people, it's like the slow build to the top. Ospreay has beaten Kenny Omega on AEW broadcast, right?
Yes.
He's a different force. That being said, if it's not Jay White, because that's just the sooner option, truthfully, why I'm signing with that. I'm a big Jay White guy, but that's
why do you want the MJF title reign to end so soon?
I think
legs now.
I think
it has so many legs.
Well, this is true. I like the idea of doing a Samoa Joe match again.
Like, I understand if this was still the same heel MJF character, I'm 100% with you. Like the Bryan Danielson build, I felt was good, but I was like, okay, but the MJF character,
the whole part
is starting to wane thin. Yeah, I was like, the MJF part of this is starting to wane thin. We're getting a third origin story and all this other stuff, and then the 4 pillars. He became a cool heel because he was the best talker out of everyone in that story. So it was like
SP3. If you were in that feud with the other 3, you would also be the best talker. Well, I just want you to know that.
You, Scott Edwards, you would be the best talker in that.
I was hoping you'd be like, you'd be the second best after like.
No, if I was doing the show with JJ, I probably would have said that. But not you, Scott. You would be the best talker in that group
with the other 3.
And then you got into the Adam Cole story here, and that's where we transform into this babyface character, which made everything wide open, and now I'm interested in the title reign going longer.
I will agree to that. A lot of my Jay White, I wanted him to win, was before we gave him 7 different contenders all at once. And I have yet to I think my brain is yet to realize that we have 7 different contenders right now. So Here's what I will say. I'm not really interested in Wardlow, but I understand doing the story. Like, that's a good story to tell because of their history. Doing the Joe match, you do Joe again. I will also be tempted for Joe to win the title. I'm just telling you.
That's fair. That's fair.
Who's better than Samoa Joe? No one. I think Wardlow, you do that on like maybe Winter's Coming or something. Is that still a thing? If that's still a thing, I assume it is. There's a lot of options all of a sudden. I'll give you that. There are legs to this. All right. You talked me into it. Jay White can lose. Jay White. I'm more interested now, though, in truthfully more than anything, how that match goes, because Jay White is a phenomenal heel wrestler, and I think we have yet to see the. I guess this match, the Collision main event, was the closest we've seen to a babyface MJF like marathon, work rate match.
Yeah.
I am really intrigued to see how it works with Jay, though, because Jay's full heel. Kenny obviously isn't.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a little bit of the not the marathon type of matchup, but how he kind of works against like a monster heel in Samoa Joe at Grand Slam.
And that was great.
The great main event matchup. I think it's probably gonna, when we look back on MJF's title run, it'll probably be kind of like the underrated gem of it. But like I feel like the match we're gonna talk about on this show and the Bryan match are gonna get all the highlights and the spotlight, or even the Four Pillars matchup, because the build was so mishmash and up and down, and then the match was spectacular. I think that will be remembered. But I think and even I keep adding more Adam Cole in the main event of the 80,000 seat arena. So that's also a big deal too. That would probably be fourth. So then the Joe match, it goes further and further down of the matches you remember, but that was great. And that's why I love the fact they've continued this whole story.
That's true. I remember I wanted them to pull the I don't know if you remember like when Joe beat Shinsuke in like NXT. And then they dropped it right back, but it was like part of the story. I was like, that would have been tempting. But MJF's had the belt so long, you don't want to do that type of thing. I will say I have liked MJF more than like a lot of the people that have fallen out of love with him. Speaking of discourse, there's been the discourse about him and AEW a lot over the past couple months, really. I've been an MJF fan. Jay White has just been doing such great work that I wouldn't be against it, because bang, bang, gang supreme, baby. But I will also say this before we move on, because I know we don't have that much time. Yeah. Christian Cage would be a great challenge as well. Feels too good to pass up almost.
That is, because he's really made the TNT title feel once again like the 1B championship. So for him to go after like the AEW World Title, I would be tempted if I'm Tony Khan to do that with MJF. Just how MJF's character is, and Christian Cage, that just creates magic. I just hope that with Jay White after Full Gear, they have something in mind for him to go into, because I think that he has gained so much momentum and he feels so much like the top heel of the promotion now, that you can't just let that go away after this world title program, which AEW has fallen victim of doing in the past.
I'd like him to do like with Darby or something. I think that would be an interesting story. Like someone new, someone new for Jay.
I mean, the story kind of ready, like if they didn't want to go the route that I talked about before of Cole turning on MJF, and you want to go to eventually Swerve being the one that finishes him, or you want to save the Cole turning on MJF down the road with Cole coming back and going after Jay White makes a lot of sense. He never got his redemption for the concussion, and Jay White used that basically as an excuse to go after his best friend. So
that's true. That's very true.
And it could play all into Adam Cole eventually being the devil. Final question before we finally move on from everything involving MJF and Jay White. Final prediction for this Wednesday's 8-man tag team main event: Bullet Club Gold versus MJF and 3 partners of his choosing. Who do you think the 3 partners will be?
I'm still thinking it's the Acclaimed. Because I just don't have a better option. Like I like the Samoa Joe idea, but I can't fill out the other two. I thought Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, and Roddy would have been a lot of fun, but it's very clear he's not just going to change his mind and be like, "Yeah, I picked these three." So I think it's the Acclaimed in the end.
They literally made them look like chumps on Wednesday. I'm saying after this whole build and the main event and the post match, the Elite.
Kenny just got announced for a match. Oh, Hangman, right?
It could be the Elite. Yeah, it could be. It
I
could
keep
be
forgetting.
any
I keep
three members of the
forgetting
Elite.
Hangman's now back in the Elite. In my because he did the Swerve feud without the Elite, so I was like, oh yeah, we moved on from that. But they have trios titles.
They reminded you on what was it, Wednesday, when they did the ROH 6-man tag team title match. I was like, nope, they're still a group, guys.
And the Young Bucks still exist.
They still exist, y'all. They still exist. But yes. We got to talk about the next segment here. We went backstage for some reason to Ryan Nemeth. He's talking about all his success outside of AEW, the Hollywood Hunk, his big things in Hollywood, the Hunkamania comedy tour. And he says he wants to pick up things in AEW. So he is going to new management, and he knocks on the door of CJ Perry, hot and flexible, on the door. And of course, it is her husband, Miro, who comes out and says, of course you can come in. And then tosses Ryan Nemeth in, and we proceed to hear him getting beaten alive. What have you thought about this whole story going on with Miro? It basically feels like CJ Perry is putting people up to get murdered by Miro for her pleasure.
Has Miro been the most confusingly booked human being in the history of AEW? Right, he came in as the best man / a gamer, and then he became the God's favorite champion, which was great. And then he lost to Sammy Guevara of all people, and then he disappeared from the face of the earth. And then he came back and fought Hobbs in that really cool match, and then he disappeared again, and now he's shooting with Lana.
He didn't disappear. They've been telling this whole story with CJ and Miro. This is a story that he's wanted to tell.
You're right. I fast forwarded through his matches. That's my vouch. I made him.
I mean, he's only had one match since All Out.
Yeah, which was the Action Andretti match, which went a lot longer than I think everyone wanted.
Needed to. No, yeah.
Yeah, it's just he's such an oddly booked human for someone who's so over. But I'm intrigued by this. I will say that. If you told me CJ Perry was on television at the beginning of the year, I'd be like, okay. But I did see Nemeth, and I was like, they're gonna bring in Ziggler, aren't they? Just thinking of the history, because Ziggler had the thing with Lana on TV once upon a time, and I was like, here we go.
I'm hoping not. I just know once Ryan Nemeth popped on my screen, I was like, okay, you're only here because your brother's about to be a free agent. But yes. Sorry.
See, I saw this spite to CM Punk.
Also true. Also could be that. Maybe a little bit of both. They're dabbling in two different, pools here. But yeah, Miro has been very confusingly booked in AEW, but when you ask that question, I just thought of the women's division in general. Or Wardlow. Or
Wardlow's a weird one. Wardlow had at least a constant run there.
The American Nightmare Cody Rhodes.
Okay, all right. To be fair, the Codyverse was an experience. Okay, that was a moment in time, baby.
Malachi Black, Keith Lee.
Keith Lee, man. There's a lot. The answer is there's a lot to pick from, unfortunately.
Jade Cargill. Sheesh, man.
You picked two people that left.
Reasons. The reasons they left. But yes, we move on to the rest of we keep going down these rabbit holes. But yes, we get very quickly through a couple of small backstage or vignettes that they had before we got into our next segment. We got the video package for Kenny Omega and MJF. We also got Danhausen. He's still coming back, even though it feels like we get in the same video package just every week.
Yay. Can you feel my
Hey,
excitement?
love that Danhausen. Come on.
I said earlier I'm notoriously known for not liking comedy in a lot of my wrestling, unless it's like R-Truth. So
comedy is for the soul. Come on, man. You need that. You need that enrichment. Anyhow, AEW Women's World Championship up for grabs. Abadon getting her one push per year because it's Halloween, going one-on-one with the three-time AEW Women's World Champion Hikaru Shida, and this was a Fright Night fight. We had Shida coming out in a rather long red dress, and we had Halloween-themed weapons abound. Abadon was her crazy self throughout this contest, barely selling of any pain. At one point, she went under the ring and scared Shida, almost pulling her under, and then came up behind her and attacked her. We had Shida at one point went on a witch broom ride off the top rope, missing, giving herself a low blow. Luckily, she doesn't have the jewelry down there. We get Abadon, who got the crowd excited with a pumpkin box that we thought was full of thumbtacks, but no, it was full of hard candy, where she gives a big buster onto. The pumpkin shot misses, though. Shida is able to put a pumpkin on Abadon's head, hit the katana. 1, 2, 3. The crowd really got into the finish of this matchup. They were into the Halloween theme of all of this. 10 minutes, 11 seconds. A lot more time than we usually see from the women, especially over on Dynamite. So I like that they got time here, and especially for Shida, who doesn't usually get the showcase like this on Dynamite. She got it here on Collision. It was a Halloween match, so your taste of it is gonna bear, especially for Scott, than people that don't like comedy of the world. But if you love cinema, post-match, timeless Toni Storm comes out sauteing to the ring, and she poses on the announce table and pulls out, I believe, a tomato out of her ass. and gives one to Tony Schiavone before biting one and getting some refreshment. Toni Storm will challenge timeless Toni Storm, will make her Hollywood homecoming at AEW Full Gear at the LA Forum when she challenges Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's World Championship. What did you think about the match and the post-match here?
Did you know? I'm going to drop some stats on you. Did you know Toni Storm lost the AEW Women's World Title on August 2nd, 2023?
Yes.
Did you know that since then she's 3-2, which includes 2 losses in AEW Women's World Title matches?
Yes, I did know that.
And did you know that her only wins are eliminator 4-way, Sky Blue, and Kiera Hogan?
Yes. Yes, I did know that.
Why does she have another title match?
Because she's the most over thing in AEW, ladies and gentlemen. That's why. Do you need another excuse? Does she need to win a title eliminator? Does she need
She did that
any of
before already.
No,
She already did that.
No, she don't need any of that. She is timeless. She is timeless, damn it. Timeless.
I'm happy I perfectly set you up for that. That was not pre-rehearsed, anyone.
No.
Yeah, the Halloween match, I thought I was watching the usual Raw before Halloween, which is fine. I have no problem with a Halloween themed match. I think that is something that is fine to play to. I know some people probably don't like it because they may think they're watching WWE, but I have no problem with it. What maybe the saddest thing that you said which was true is that Shida doesn't get this spotlight enough. Shida's a 3-time AEW Women's World Champion. She should be getting this spotlight on a weekly basis. We shouldn't be having to wait and hope and pray that this happens all the time. This was much better than their 2021 match, which I have said on record is the worst world championship match of 2021. Between Shida and Abadon. I vividly remember because it was so bad. So this was a lot better. This was redemption for him. I'm not saying it was like anything blow away, but it was a match that they could have fun with, and I thought the finish was very cool, very good with the pumpkin head into the katana. That was good.
Yes. So we're gonna run through a couple of these things here real quickly. We get a vignette for the Shane Taylor and Keith Lee. A lot of old footage from their Ring of Honor past. Here's some words from Shane Taylor, who always cuts good promos. Love when Shane Taylor gets the attention. I just want more of it outside of these vignettes. Any quick thoughts?
Just happy Keith Lee has a story.
Finally, at least they're doing something with it.
Remember that Swerve versus Keith Lee match? Anyone?
Cool story, bro. I don't remember. Samoa Joe defended the Ring of Honor World Television Championship against former champion Rhett Titus. Yeah, exactly. 2 minutes, 4 seconds, muscle buster. Samoa Joe retains the Ring of Honor World Television Championship. But the good news is AEW Rampage, the Sussex County Chicken, is back. Mark Briscoe returned, got into a confrontation with Kip Sabian. So maybe we are going to see the end of Samoa Joe's story as Ring of Honor World Television Champion so he can focus more on AEW.
Nothing puts butts in seats more than Kip Sabian versus Mark Briscoe, baby. No, but in all seriousness, I'm happy Mark Briscoe's back because that means he could take the title from Samoa Joe, which means Samoa Joe could be on AEW more and focus more. I'm all in on that. So between Samoa Joe and Claudio, they are the two best squash match wrestlers in the world. So having both of them do it on this show was a lot of fun.
I love the fact that Collision has been giving us more squash matches. That's what I need.
Old school, baby.
We're not going to even say anything, but
no.
QTV was on TV. They're happy to be back, and he's ready to defend his AAA Latin American Championship.
They pretty much said that QT Marshall's going to beat a lot of luchadors that you like. That's what they said.
This was filmed at Rampage. Why couldn't this air on Rampage? Anyway, Claudio Castagnoli.
Sorry, continue.
Has some comments because Bryan Danielson has been announced as having a broken orbital bone, courtesy of the Orange Punch and Rainmaker he received on Dynamite. And Claudio has talked about how Danielson has that broken orbital bone, and he promises to make Kazuchika Okada and Orange Cassidy pay for what they did. He's ready to take the International Championship from Cassidy on Dynamite this Wednesday, and then he is coming for Okada. Man, what a magical replacement world we're in when the replacement for Bryan Danielson versus Okada at Wrestle Kingdom is Claudio Castagnoli.
My pitch before that, before Danielson got hurt, was to do Okada and Claudio at Full Gear. It made so much sense to me because New Japan doesn't have anything scheduled. It's a big match for your card. And it's a way to have Okada finally win on AEW television.
He is 0-3, folks.
Which is absurd to me. Like, I thought that would be a perfect way to go from, okay, we have this tag match, we do the Claudio match, and then we replay him versus Danielson. Now, assuming Danielson ain't going to be at Wrestle Kingdom, I think you're right. I think we just push back Claudio, do that at Kingdom, no complaints here. As long as we get the singles match, which is seemingly the direction, which is all I was hoping for, we're fine. I'm happy. I know he's not going to beat Orange Cassidy on Wednesday, but he should.
No.
He should.
We need Cassidy Moxley too. Sorry.
But no. I don't. I want Phoenix.
No, he has to deal with his visa issues
all the time, man. It's so unfair.
Ricky Starks versus Dax Hardwood was next, and the House of Black was in the crowd watching and hovering over everything going on in the festivities. And what we got was a very good matchup between these two guys with plenty of time, 12 minutes, 52 seconds. Big Bill would offer a distraction at the end after Dax Hardwood hit a scary looking power driver on Ricky Starks for a 2 count. Big Bill broke it up, distracting Dax Hardwood, who got back into the ring to receive a power driver of his own as Ricky Starks picked up another big victory on Collision. Post-match, the lights go out again. The House of Black appear in the ring. They are surrounding FTR when the music of the returning La Faction Inganables hits. They come out, they get into the ring, they stare off with FTR, and then go after the heels of House of Black and Ricky Starks and Big Bill, or as I like to call them, Absolutely Big, or the House of Absolutely Big. Then the babyfaces stare off, and LFI celebrate their return, and LFI as babyfaces, very, very intrigued. What did you think about the match, Ricky Starks and Big Bill? What did you think about the post-match with LFI returning?
Match was solid as expected. No complaints about that. What matters is that Roosh is back finally. Yeah. I love Roosh. Now, him as a babyface, I don't know yet. Like, I'm just very unsure of how that's gonna work. But a badass babyface is never a bad thing, and I'm very intrigued to see not Andrade, even though I was hoping Andrade would be part of this. Maybe he still will be. You never know, because they cut right to him after this.
They did.
So they know what they're doing. But Roosh, he is such an incredible worker, and I hope this is the beginning of some big push for him, because I understand there's so many people in this company that I want to get pushed. I know.
There's a lot.
But Roosh should be one of them, because Roosh is fantastic. As long as I get to watch Roosh wrestle, I'm pretty happy at this point. It's been a while. And Dralistico and Preston Vance are fine.
Along for the ride. They're here. Yeah. They're also here too.
Got to be along for the ride sometimes.
Well, what happened on Battle of the Belts 8 last week was after Andrade's loss to Bryan Danielson on Collision, he had a confrontation with CJ Perry, who CJ Perry seemingly tried to offer him her management association. So on this week's show, Andrade said he isn't worried about Miro being angry over a possible CJ Perry association. He is a businessman, and this is his business. What do you think about Andrade being involved in the CJ Perry Miro story?
I am here for Andrade versus Miro. If it has to involve CJ Perry, fine.
Why are you not here for CJ Perry?
I'm not. I have no problem with her. It's just like, in the end, we know she's just going to manage Miro. Come on.
This is true. We have Romeo in the chat said, I don't know how Nigel kept his composure. I wouldn't when Tony Storm was laying on the table. We got Frantic World, who also says Tony Storm is the best. We got Frantic World, who's also saying LFI, FTR versus House of Black, Ricky Starks and Big Bill. Yes, it seems like we made the transition because of Bryan Danielson's injury to put LFI in Blackpool Combat Club spot.
Okay. I'm cool with it.
I don't mind.
Blackpool Combat Club do so many other things, like naturally, that it's a fine thing to go away from.
True. It's very true. And they're in like 2 different other stories. Chris Statlander next had a interview backstage with Willow Nightingale and Sky Blue. She wants to make up with her former friends. Nightingale even talks about how there is tension there between her and Sky Blue. She says they both got misted, but even during the 4-way, they both couldn't get out of each other's way. And she understands that what this miss does to them, it affects them. But now that Julia Hart is back, they might need to talk about it. Blue says anything between herself and Julia is between the two of them and walks off. What do you think about this ongoing story? I love the fact we have a story going on here. I'd take anything at this point.
And a secondary women's division story is a fine thing by me. Just don't turn Willow heel.
I think they're smartly going in the direction I was hoping.
Yeah. They seem to be going away from it. This promo like calmed me down, because when I saw her fight Chris, I was like, all right, no, we're not turning Willow heel. That would be a very silly decision. I'm fine with Sky Blue going heel. I think Sky Blue, Julia Hart, and presumably someone else eventually, because they're not just going to do duos. There's no tag team titles. I think that'll be fine. I'm fine. Like you said, I'm happy we have a story.
That's what I'm here for. Stories, please. Next, we had that aforementioned squash victory by Claudio Castagnoli, who completely bombarded Tracy Williams here. Poor man got rainmakers twice, then got a big old uppercut, 42 seconds. Angry Claudio is a great Claudio, which means that this Wednesday on Dynamite, this should be an absolute banger. Orange Cassidy versus Claudio Castagnoli for the AEW International Championship. I'm looking forward to this. I don't know how they're going to do the finish, though, if you plan on having Claudio versus Okada at
if they're not doing it for Wrestle Kingdom and they're doing it for Full Gear because they for some reason think Danielson can make it back, which, you know, if he can make it back, you go with that. Because what's the build that you really need to do? They have the natural build there.
True. He's beaten him twice. He's injured him twice. That's the whole story.
And I don't know necessarily how you book that match. That's Tony Khan's problem, not mine. Thankfully, it's not something I have to worry about. What I am worried about is saying that Claudio might be one of the most underrated wrestlers this year in terms of a wrestler of the year conversation. Obviously, you have your Ospreys, you have your Moxleys, Okadas, Omegas, Danielsons, MJF. Kento Miyaharas, if you want me to toss someone out there, MJF. Like you have the key crop, right? Claudio's had a great year, and a lot of those Danielson Moxley like matches, Claudio has been involved because they've been tags or trios. Yep. So I just want to shout out my guy Claudio. I'm hoping he closes out the year big here because I think he's had one of the more consistent years. And if they now step him up from the Ring of Honor stuff, obviously, to main event type stuff next year, I'm okay with that.
I mean, he's easily had the best year of his career since 2015. Because people will say 2021, but that was like a few months where he faced Seth at WrestleMania and then had the match with Roman. But then they just completely forgot about him. So yeah, and then he left. So yeah, I wouldn't say 2021. I would say 2015 when the Cena US Open Challenge. I felt like he was one of the big like winners of that whole program.
I'd say this is the best year of his career in terms of a total match output.
Yeah,
maybe at least in broadcast television. I know he did great in Ring of Honor and stuff like that, but in terms of his WWE and AEW stuff, this has been his best in-ring run, I think.
I agree with you. But we shall see how he does against Orange Cassidy. After the match, he did put on the label lock on Tracy Williams. I would love to see him keep doing that in matches as well. Next, we saw backstage, we get getting ready, and I love the hype for the main event throughout the night. So we saw MJF and Kenny Omega getting ready, and then the split screen became a single screen as Samoa Joe approached MJF, and he gives him a pep talk, and he says that if you need him, just scream his name, and he will be there. I was really hoping MJF did to set up a Joe versus Omega match, but we shall talk about this matchup here. MJF going one-on-one with Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship, but most importantly, to determine who is the longest reigning and therefore the greatest AEW World Champion of all time. This had the big fight feel from the very beginning, the big intros, the big crowd participation. The crowd was very vocal and into this matchup. We had a slow feeling out process where things got technical early on before, wrist locks and headlocks were traded off. Both men showing their athleticism. Omega doing MJF doing a strut, Omega doing a cartwheel. We get trade nip ups, but Omega wasn't quite there yet, but MJF was. But then MJF goes after the arm of Kenny Omega, trying to focus on the salt of the earth, but it doesn't slow down Omega, who uses his speed to take MJF to the outside, hitting a big flip dive. But once he slides MJF back into the ring, MJF responds with a Flossberry flop of his own. We get a big crossbody, puts Omega back down inside, only to have MJF take him down again. We get a chin lock and then a hammerlock DDT on Omega for a 2 count. Both men, this fight goes to the outside where Kenny Omega pulls out a table. They fight on the apron and we get a big dragon suplex on the apron. We then follows up and hits a scary looking power bomb where he almost loses balance backwards, but then just bounces off the ropes, then does a sit-out power bomb through the table. We go to one of 2 commercial breaks, only 90 seconds, but this was one of the craziest spots we've seen in AEW this year. Both men were down. Then we come back from commercial break. We get a big slug out between the 2 guys, running knee by Omega. We get a one-wing angel reversed into a poison Rana. Omega gets up, hits a poison Rana of his own. We get another jumping knee from Omega, but MJF is able to kick out at 2. We get a pump handle Black Peach driver by MJF for a 2 count. He hits a butterfly brain buster to Omega to rock him. He loads up a superplex, but Omega is able to reverse that into a sheer drop brain buster. Once again, MJF goes back after the arm, going for the salt of the earth, but Omega's able to fight back out. We get a Texas power driver on MJF, a cactus style power driver, and it only gets a 2 count when MJF gets his foot on the rope. We get a running knee by Omega for a 2 count. Another V trigger, a V trigger into the corner, another V trigger. He goes for the one ring angel when Don Callis comes down to the ring with a screwdriver. This distracts Omega enough for MJF to get a near fall on a roll up. We get another roll up exchange, a heat seeker for a very, very close near fall. Omega was able to kick out. I thought it was over right there. MJF goes for the Panama Sunrise, but Omega's able to reverse out of that. We get MJF basically hitting a super kick in the corner, then finally hitting the Panama Sunrise. He then follows up with a heat seeker. 1, 2, 3, 30 minutes, 12 seconds. This was absolutely sensational. One of the best TV matches that AEW has ever produced, and one of their best AEW World Championship matches in history. Regardless of TV, pay-per-view, these 2 guys went out there and brought it. The storytelling, the psychology, the in-ring work. Oh my God, this was next level. And then the post-match was a nice little cherry on top, showing the evolution of this MJF character, who was the one who initiated the handshake post-match, showing his respect to Kenny Omega and what he brought in this matchup, what he brought as AEW World Champion. And Kenny Omega, like he said in the video package, having newfound respect for MJF and how he's grown, accepting the handshake, the 2 men hugging and showing so much respect in the post-match. But MJF will become the new longest reigning AEW World Champion in history as he closes out the night, defeating Kenny Omega here. This tomorrow is officially it. MJF, longest reigning and greatest now AEW World Champion. What did you think about MJF and Kenny Omega?
There's nothing that embodies AEW at its best more than Kenny Omega in the big match. Nothing. There's nothing better than it. There's been a lot of greatness in AEW's history in terms of match quality, but Kenny Omega now at 100%, as much as he can be.
Yeah.
It is just a sight to see. Like, you are watching an all-timer every time he steps in there. And he reminds me in these types of matches that he is still the best in the world when he gets these big matches. Like, I just don't know if there's anyone that brings me in more than he does. And I you know me, I'm like you. I rate every match I watch. Mr. Ospreay does a great job. But when Kenny has these big matches, there's just nothing like it because he makes you believe, things like that. And this match reminded me of the AEW that so many people fell in love with. It's the up and comer, right? The AEW born type guy in MJF against the guy Kenny Omega. An absolutely phenomenal match that needs to be run back somewhere down the line because they have so much more left in the tank. That was the biggest takeaway for me.
That felt like a sample of what they could really offer on a pay-per-view.
And I actually loved the Callus run-in because it's like, well, it looked like he had it done. Like Kenny looked like he was winning. Yeah. And it's like just that slight, like, if he didn't, would Kenny be champion? I'm fine with that because he didn't actually get involved. He just he bothered Kenny enough to make the match continue. And MJF, people can have their complaints about him and his character work or stuff like that. When it's time for a big match, he has been phenomenal this year. Right? We talked about it earlier. The Samoa Joe match, this match, the Danielson match. List goes on and on and on. He's delivered in that big match. And this goes down as one of the great AEW TV matches ever. AEW, if there's anything AEW has done great this year besides pay-per-views, it is main event TV matches.
Yeah. I would say even though it came in June, Collision has been the provider of my favorite AEW TV matches this year. And FTR and Bullet Club Gold are by far, in my opinion, the best AEW TV matches this year.
The only one from Dynamite that I would add is Danielson and Rush, and that's just because I love that match so much.
Yeah, and I would say that's third. Yeah, I would say that's third, or the Game 7. I would say Game 7.
Yes.
Elite and Death Triangle is in that.
Quietly, Kenny and Vikingo also happened.
Oh my God! Okay. All right, that changed the game. I forgot about that. That might be that's in there. That's top 3.
Yeah,
like, you could change.
I think we named the top 5.
The 2 Collision matches and Kenny and Vikingo. Yeah.
Truthfully, if anyone picks from those top 5 matches, like the 5 that we just named, I get it because they're all very different. But this was phenomenal. This was again everything that AEW is about. Everything that I want AEW to be about. A great match to put on. Kenny's story continues that he can't get the job done. He can't win right now. And I'm fine with that because eventually he's going to start winning. And sometime next year, he's winning some sort of belt. I don't know what belt, but it needs to be a belt.
And I liked at the end, they showed before the handshake, Wardlow, Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Bullet Club Gold watching this matchup. Because I think we
Hobbs get edition in there.
I think we get Hobbs and Omega at Full Gear. That's what I think.
I'm fine with that. That's going to be the best match of Hobbs' career. Remember Takeshita? Do you remember Takeshita? I would like if they remember.
Yeah, that's cool. They put him in the main event of Rampage, and of course he had a great match with Kyle Fletcher, so he can always have a great match.
That was really good.
We need more great matches from Takeshita after he just had the best match of his career against Kenny Omega at All Out.
Yeah. I'm guessing they run that back at World's End. I guess we're gonna go that far
because you could be him beat Hobbs to get his momentum back, and then World's End is the end of the feud. Yeah. He beats Takeshita
because Takesha's got to do the Jericho thing with in DDT first. Yeah. And I keep forgetting that's part of the story. It's just branched out, which I like. I love when AEW is willing to branch out their stories. But I just need Kenny back, and this was me getting Kenny back. There's nothing better. And MJF, bravo to him.
Adam Cole and MJF was great. I just don't see it in that. I don't think that's in a different tier from the matches we have just named. I feel like that's not even, that probably is in the tier with Blood and Guts or there's a million Brian Danielson versus Christian Cage.
Brian Danielson versus
Ricky Starks. There's plenty of those to choose.
A million Brian Danielson matches that have happened.
So let's put our thumbs in the middle for the October 28th, 2023 edition of AEW Collision in 3, 2, 1. Thumbs up from the both of us here. Out of 10, what did you give the show?
I give it a solid 9. I think this show progressed a lot of stories, had a phenomenal main event, had Hikaru Shida wrestle a match on TV. We'll take that all day. And it was kind of the form of like the Dynamites from 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
In many ways, where you have the big main event match and you have a bunch of little stories told throughout.
I agree with you. I think that that was a great way to book this show, and it was a lot of fun to watch. So I definitely,
Collision, most weeks the better show lately.
Yeah. It seems so. It seems it's sad what they've done to my Dynamite. But yes, I think Collision was great. I give it a 9 out of 10 as well. Match of the night, obviously the main event, right?
I loved Claudio versus Tracy Williams.
I couldn't get enough of that. Like, what are you talking about? Sorry.
I watched it 7 times. No, of course it's not. It's not even a contest. Not even a contest. Kenny and MJF stole the show. They tried to steal the month. It's been a great month of wrestling, though.
October's one. I was gonna say. I was like, I have like 4 or 5-star matches in this month. I mean, at least 2 of them were from Will Ospreay, 2 of them were from Zack Sabre Jr., and now we have one from MJF and Kenny Omega. But yes, that is a great month in wrestling. Match of the night, MJF and Kenny Omega. MVP for the show, I'm gonna go with MJF. I think that winning this matchup solidify himself as the longest reigning champion. And really, once again, this has just been a year of over and over again, MJF proving that he can deliver in these big matches.
Yeah, it's hard to pick anyone but MJF, I think, on this one. The only person I'd consider, other than like Kenny, because they were in the same match, is Claudio. I think he had a great night on the promo and that squash match. But I'll go with MJF as well. This was a banner night for him in many ways.
Absolutely agreed there. And LVP for the show, I'm gonna go with Tracy Williams and Rhett Titus since they're tag team partners. And they both got squashed.
Oh, that's so mean, but yeah. It's not their fault. Actually, they did a great job. I'm not gonna, they did
great. They did great in their roles, but they come on.
I'm gonna say Max Caster. He got catfished.
Yeah, he got catfished. And
Can't be having that.
He got catfished and put in timeout after. That's like a double whammy. Scott, please let the people know where they can follow you on social media. What you got going on across the board on all your different platforms.
Yeah, follow me at Scotty Wrestling on X, Twitter, whatever you prefer. That's it. I'm on Instagram too, but I don't use that. You can check out my interview with Hyan over on Fightful's YouTube channel. Of course, Hyan just wrestled Juliet, Fighting Spirit Unleashed. You can check out the 5-Star Joshi show over on Fight Game Media Network Patreon if you're into Joshi or want to get into Joshi. Try to do my best there. And you can also check out my other show, Ring Post Radio. That's where I talk about the weekly topics in wrestling. That's always a fun one as well. So, yeah, thank you for having me, SP3.
No doubt, Scott. We said we were going to go less than an hour and stop before 8. And, of course, we talk way too much about wrestling. So I love having you come on because it's always a great time.
I knew it wasn't going to happen.
I know. That's why I DVR'd Raw so I could start it from the beginning. Do my work. But yes, you can follow me on the Twitter machine at TrueHillSP3. Like I said on the community pros, I said it on social media. It's been a busy week for us at True Hill Heat. I said it at the top of the show, was in Chicago, like a lot of the team for Stat King's wedding. Stat King is enjoying his honeymoon right now, but we're going to be back on it with the content. So we'll be back on Wednesday with our Crown Jewel preview. It will be myself and Romeo breaking down this Saturday show. Me and Jay News will be back on Friday for our NJPW Power Struggle preview. We'll also be dropping for our Patreon backers our Fighting Spirit Unleashed review as well over the weekend. So you got a lot of great content to enjoy here on the channel, here on twitch.tv/True Hill Heat Gaming this Thursday. Blunt Impact returns, and as well the True Hill Heat flagship podcast on Saturday right here on the channel returns 11:05 a.m. Eastern time. And then finally, go over to True Hill Heat Sports and check us out for the watch along Monday Night Football right now. But without further ado, that's Scott. I'm SP3. I will see you next time. on Collision Discourse for JJ somewhere too. This has been Collision Discourse number 15, reviewing AEW Collision from October 28th, 2023, MJF versus Kenny Omega. We're signing off until next time.